that background down just a little bit. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Bubba here. Well, hope everybody's doing okay this morning. It is the 13th day of April, 2 days till tax day. I hope you've got yours done. I hadn't gotten mine done yet. I'm waiting on them. I got to swing by there this morning and pick them up. Well, let's get the week started right. Being focused, prepared, and committed to working safe, timely, and efficient. In today's show, we'll be talking about something that gets confused on job sites all the time, and it's fall restraint versus positioning systems. They're not the same. Fall restraint is designed to keep you from reaching the edge. You cannot fall because the system physically prevents it. Now, a positioning system allows you to work with your hands free, but they can allow limited movement and potential exposure if not used correctly. Understanding the difference isn't technical, it's life critical. Well, let's do the roll call. How's everybody doing? Where you headed today? What trade are you repping? What job are you on? What do you do? Hang steel, pour concrete, finish concrete, hang sheet rock, do interior framing. You do wood stick framing, metal framing. I want to hear about it. I want to know where you're headed, what you're doing this morning. Are you supervisor who's just getting himself together, swinging by, picking up some crew members? Are you headed to the shop, maybe picking up some tools, headed to the Home Depot or the Lowe's, picking up some material? Tell me what you're doing. Are you just wheeling into the old QT or Lowe's and getting you that first cup of coffee as you roll on down the road? Let me know where you're going. And I want to know if you're going to be working at heights this morning as well. So, touch bases, come on and give me a hit and let me know what's going on. Get started in the chat. Send me a chat. Let me know what you're doing. As far as, fall protection, knowing your system really isn't optional. It's survival. So anyway, it's Monday morning. Boy, spring is in the air, ain't it? I'm here in the southeast. I guess the closest metropolitan area would be Greenville, Atlanta, Asheville. Those would be the biggest cities near me, I reckon. So let me know where you're at this morning. I'm here in the southeast. If you're out in Texas, the West Coast, and you're up this early in the morning, check in. I know some of you guys living up in the Northeast. I know that if you live outside the big city, you're making your way in via train or whichever way you get to work. And I know you're rolling already. That's a big metropolitan area up there. Seems like I'm buffering this morning. But let me know. Let me know. I'd like to hear from you and know what's going on in your world. This is Monday Morning Bubba. I'm here every Monday morning at 5 o'clock to get us motivated, maybe throw in some humor. Humor leaves it wide open, but some humor and some safety talk and just to see what's going on out there. Seems like the old stream's buffering. Anyway, we're going to move along and pretend like it's going along all right. Always computer wanting to update. I need us to figure out a way to shut that old update system off. Uh, anyway, here we are, Monday morning. The phrase of the week for this week is no compromise when it comes to safety or the safety of others. You know, a lot of times compromise will sound like it'll be all right. I've just this once. We don't need all that today. But safety doesn't bend. It either holds or it fails. Now, no compromise, that means using the right system, setting it up correctly, checking it every time, speaking up when something isn't right. The moment you compromise safety, you accept risk. And that's absolutely true. Because it's a slippery slope. You compromise on this, you compromise on that, you compromise on this, that, and the other. And before you know it, you're just sloppy. And then you got the GC always up your butt, the safety guy always on you, and because your guys aren't participating in their roles correctly. Oh, man. I got up at an hour early this morning, man. I was so excited about getting here and doing this live stream. I was couldn't. I'd look at the watch. My night light went out on my watch, and my eyes ain't that good anymore, and I can't really judge. So I jumped up and thought I was moving along at the right time, and got to the bathroom and looked at the watch and said, "Dang." At that point, I was wide awake. I said, "Oh, well." So I got down here and checked on my seedlings. I got some tomatoes in there in the pantry. I got them started and checked on them, made sure they were good watered, and made some copies and printed some stuff off, and this, that, and the other, and try to get the old live stream up and going, and sit here for a minute or two, and here we are. Y'all go ahead and check in with me. Let me know where you headed, what you're doing today, what kind of trade you're in, and we'll get this thing rolling along. We talk about safety a minute ago, using the right system to set it up, and checking it every time. I'd had an interesting study this week. I had a buddy of mine. He's in the demolition business, and he called me up one morning and said, "Man, I had a structural wall collapse. Machine operator, he got the wiggling and dropped it in the parking lot in the business next door." I said, "Oh, my goodness. Everybody all right?" He said, yeah. He says, "Wasn't nobody in that parking lot yet." And I said, "Whoo, man, you got to be careful demoing those structural brick walls. Those son of a guns that get to wiggling and won't come your way, and then you lose control of it, and it finds a weak spot, a beam pocket or something, and it decides to break when it's going the other way. It's always hard to tell." And talked about doing, how to control those things and being careful when you demo those walls. Then he called me later in the day and had another wall collapse. And this one was, it was a demising wall. And it it was about, I forget how high he says it was, 20 feet or something like that. And anyway, he see if I can move it over and read it to you. Anyway, it had a block wall about 8 feet up, and then it had a sheetrock all the way up from there. And they removed the darn block wall and that supported that sheetrock wall, and the sheetrock wall gave way and collapsed. And anyway, that's these are unplanned collapses, and I'm not calling him out because it's something that goes on all the time. And in both both these cases, there were no injuries, and that was good fortune, but it was not a success. From a safety standpoint, there are. Let's see if I can move this over to here. From a safety standpoint, these are not isolated; they're indicators, and OSHA and longstanding safety research consistently shows that serious and fatal accidents are rarely random. They are typically preceded by a series of smaller, less severe events, near misses, process deviations, and overlooked hazards. This concept is often described in safety theory as the incident triangle or Heinrich's pyramid, where minor accidents and near misses from the base that support the potential for a major or catastrophic outcomes. What happened was a perfect example of that progression. In demolition work, especially, structural stability is not forgiven. The removal of one component, intended or unintended, can redistribute loads instantly. When that redistribution is not fully understood, planned, or controlled, the result is what this guy experienced, and that's an unexpected collapse. In the first incident that I described to you, the exterior brick wall should be viewed as a warning signal. A breakdown in the engineering survey or structural assessment, a gap in hazard recognition or pre-task planning. I talk about that all the time. Pre-task planning is absolutely critical. Or it was a change in conditions not accounted for. And the second incident, it just happened a few hours later, removal of a load-bearing element without full consideration of dependent structures. A failure to identify that sheetrock wall was relying on the brick wall for stability. Anyway, and you had workers exposed to the collapse zone. These are not independent events. They're connected by process. OSHA requires under CFR 29 CFR 1926.850 that an engineering survey be conducted by a competent person prior to demolition to determine the condition of the structure and the possibility of unplanned collapse. And when you read the pre-demolition engineering survey example they put in the OSHA standard, that's exactly what they're looking for. They want to know what is the possibility of unplanned collapse. Additionally, ongoing inspections must be performed as conditions change. Well, anytime you're removing components, the conditions change. The trend is really what mattered. One uncontrolled collapse is a warning. Two in a single day is a pattern. The next one can involve people instead of empty space. Myself and other safety professionals often refer to this as normalization of deviation. That's what we were talking about early. People just accepting the conditions without, uh, you know, speaking up, and that's where this thing went to. Now, in this situation, everybody was fortunate, but relying on fortune is not a strategy. You know, I recommended the evaluation of your pre-demolition engineering survey process, reinforcing competent person oversight during all phases of structural removal, conducting a detailed pre-task planning or JHA that specifically addresses load paths and structural dependencies, establishing clear exclusion zones during any activity that could affect structural integrity. Hey, pause operations when conditions change and reassessing before proceeding. Now, this isn't about slowing progress or production. It's ensuring that production continues at all, because in this line of work, the difference between a near miss and a fatality is often measured in seconds, inches, or awareness. You had 2 warnings today, buddy. I love you. I want you to be successful. And I'm just using this example this morning as a warning to everybody. The moment you compromise safety is the moment you accept risk you can't control. All right. Now, this morning, we're talking about choosing the right fall protection system. Who, what, when, where, and why. Who the competent person selects and oversees the system. Are we using guardrails? They prevent falls, restraint systems that limit access, positioning systems, support work, or PFAS, or personal fall arrest systems that just stop the fall. So, when do we do these? Whenever a fall hazard exists, 6 feet or more in most cases. And where do these normally happen? Edges, roofs, scaffolding, steel openings, any kind of elevated work. And then why? Well, because each system serves a different purpose. Using the wrong one creates exposure. The first go-to should always be a guardrail system. And it's not always feasible to have a guardrail system, but that's the one you need to really focus on. And then from there, we go to fall restraint, personal fall arrest systems, and so forth. We got to maintain. You got to have somebody to recognize that. You can't have the guys up there crawling around when they're exposed to the fall, because the wrong system used correctly is still the wrong system. If you're using a guardrail system that's not correctly constructed, can't hold the 200 pounds downward or outward force, then you've got the system, but it's not built correctly, and it's still not right. Anyway, so as we move along, good Lord, can you believe we've been at this for 20 minutes already? All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Check in with me. I see a couple people out there. Looks like they're looking, but they ain't saying nothing. I'd like to hear a comment from you. Give me a chat. I'm going to keep doing this thing. And I figure 5 o'clock in the morning is the best time to do this program. I'd like to do it later, but I can't do it when you're already on the job site. I'm trying to get you warmed up and prepped up while you're on the job site. That's my objective. Get you pumped up first day of the week. Uh, Maybe get you motivated and get you paying attention to stay with the program throughout the whole week, keeping your guys safe. Just a motivational hour here. And now I know that if you're driving, you can't be watching the video, but you could plug it into your YouTube and play it through your truck radio system. Most trucks have that today, and most people utilize it to play their Spotify or who knows, all those crazy things that people use. And I know some people don't speak the English language, and man, I wish I could do it in a simulcast in Spanish, but I don't have that language capability. And if someone wants to join me in the mornings and work this out, they could take and do the same thing, run their own program, do it Spanish speaking only. It'd make me proud. I'm not worried about competition. The only thing I'm worried about is getting the message out there on safety. Anyway, okay. The only thing I'm worried about is safety. So today's job site challenge, this is always fun. Identify hazards and talk them out. Use your PTP JHA/safety meetings the right way. Ask your guys, what are the hazards today? Are there fall hazards? Are there pinch points? You got equipment running? Go through that. And if you got fall hazards, what system are they using? They're using guardrails. Anybody inspected those guardrails? If you're using personal fall arrest system, have you inspected your equipment? Make sure your self-retracting lanyards lock up in a timely fashion. You don't want those things to fail. Then always ask, what could go wrong? Something could always go wrong, and it may not go wrong, but if it could go wrong, bring it to the forefront, because what happens is you get people thinking about it. You get people going, yeah, that might be right. And when they come to the hazard and they've got their safety equipment, they think, well, we talked about this hazard. Let me check this. Is this anchorage appropriate? Is this guardrail properly built? Am I going to use a positioning device? Am I meeting the requirements? Just talk through all those things. And then as you identify the hazards, talk about how to prevent them. That's always important. And don't rush the conversation. I know it's amazing to me in many safety meetings I've had throughout the years that you start talking about it and you dance around and you come back to it and you don't think anybody's participating. And then all of a sudden one guy raises his hand and says, I got a question. Well, that one question, if he stands up and has a question, it is amazing to me the number of the guys that pile in with questions they may have or comments they may have. And we fill out those forms and they sign off on them, and that shows that you've done your due diligence on protecting your people. Hazards talked about are hazards reduced. And the hazards that are ignored are hazards waiting. All righty. Y'all tell me how you do your PTP. Or do you call it a PTP, pre-task planning, or JHA, job hazard analysis? Same thing, same concept. But tell me what you do, how you do it, and do you do it every day, which you should be before you begin the task. And if things change, you should redo it in the middle of the day or whenever the task changes or the hazards change. You need to stop for that 1 minute and review it with your crew and make sure that they understand it and it's brought to their attention. And they signify it by signing off. Let me adjust this microphone. I tell you what, I'm still doing this. Y'all let me know if the stream is strong and if it sounds good and all that stuff. Uh Now why did the worker love fall restraint systems? I'll tell you what, if you got that fall restraint system on, you're aware of the edge. You got to be away from the edge, but at least I've had guys that were handling trash removal and at the end of a ramp, and they'd have to run the wheelbarrow up a ramp and dump it. And I had them on fall restraint, and I tell you what, they know they had reached the end of their tether, and when they would stop, couldn't go another inch. And you have them timed out pretty good. They know what they're doing. They need a little, but they couldn't go over the edge. They had their forward motion figured out, but you know that they love them because it keeps them out of trouble and away from the edge. And then a good crew won't argue about a safety system. Why? They'd rather argue about lunch, especially with me on the job. They know there ain't no room for argument. We're going to get this right. And most of them fall right in line. It's just amazing to me that a trained and safety conscious team, they need very little supervision because they just know that safety is of the utmost importance and has primary duty to be safe. Boy, I need that coffee this morning. I didn't get it till 4:30. Why did the foreman trust the prepared worker? Well, just like I just talked about, didn't have to guess what he was doing. Yeah, another one. I don't need all this gear. Another set worker said, and I agreed with him. He says, you don't need it until you do. That's a lesson most only get once. And I talk about it all the time. In a fall scenario, if it's known, but if you start a fall, your mind takes 1 second to go, oops, I'm falling. And then it takes a full another second for your body to do its automatic reflex, like to grab for something, because you got to recognize it, and then your brain's got to send the signal to your body to try and do something about it. And by then, 3 seconds have passed, and at the speed of a fall, it's too late, man. You don't ever want to put yourself in a situation where you could slip, trip, and fall, or go over an edge, or anything like that. So make sure you're paying attention out there. And a lot of you probably aren't even exposed to falls today on your job. Heck, you may never be exposed to a fall. I can't think of anybody that wouldn't ever be. A guy says, well, I'm a concrete worker. Yeah, you are, but you pour concrete on multiple levels, don't you? You're having to work near the edge when you're working that concrete, floating it or whatever you do to get it right. So, you always have a potential, so make sure you're aware of it. And another thing, taking care of your equipment. I see, and I'll walk by a truck and there's a pile of harnesses in there, or a pile of retractables in there, getting exposed to grease and grime and dirt and sunshine and rain, and that degrades that webbing. So make sure you take care of your equipment. And then, working with high burners and all that, and, there burns and rips burns on the edges. You can have a little melted spot, and that's okay. But if it's near the edge, boy, you got to get that thing out of service, because if it has an impact, that torn edge or burnt edge may just rip right out. it's quite an impact if you fall. And if you're not wearing that harness correctly, you're going to get hurt. You won't be dead, but you could get hurt. And if you're not, if that harness is degraded by sitting in the back of the truck and getting dirt in it, and that dirt, those dusty and dirty harnesses, they've got that sand and grit in there, and it's just cutting away at that webbing, cutting away. Every time you move, it's just grinding away at that webbing. And then throw UV radiation on top of that, exposure on top of that, dust and grime in there cutting away, or chemicals that could degrade the integrity of that nylon webbing. It could be dangerous for you. So take care of your equipment, inspect it. But now, if you wear the same harness every day, which I highly suggest that you have your own harness, you're aware of the condition that it's in. And when it comes time to, if you get a particular burn in it or a tear in it, it's time to give it up. Or if the D-ring gets rusty, a rusty D-ring, that's just like an abrasive blade on that webbing. So if it gets rusty or bent or deformed or anything like that, it's time to get it out of service. And I had a question. Guy sent me a text or a chat or whatever, and says, "What's the biggest mistake people make with fall protection?" And my answer was using the wrong system for the task. You can't use a positioning device if you're only have one lanyard. It's a dual lanyard system, then you have to connect and disconnect. Some of them have three: a retractable lanyard going up and then two that they're working from. So that's an appropriate system, but making sure you're using the right system. And here was another comment. Most accidents start with misunderstanding and not equipment failure. That's absolutely correct. You know what you're doing. You've done it 100 times. But then you get the new guy and you throw him a harness and he's out there trying to buck rebar, trying to tie a rebar together, and he's trying to do it one-handed instead of he's just got personal fall arrest system on, and he doesn't have a positioning device to allow his hands free movement. He's up there struggling, and in that struggle, there lies a hazard. And a new guy, he just may not understand that. So that's worth remembering. Let's see. If you've got a question, you've got a comment, and if you need a particular commentary on a particular OSHA standard, or you've got a hazard on your job site and you'd like to have more information, or you're looking for a toolbox safety topic, you can go to the, what is that, Toolbox. I got a whole channel over there, and man, I think there's over 200 videos. And that's if you need something either on fall protection, any kind of thing, any kind of hazard, pinch point struck by, caught in between, any of the OSHA Focus 4, anything. Respiratory protection, I think I've got some videos on respiratory protection. All kinds of things on that other channel. Go over there. I do, matter of fact, include my script for the videos in the description, and you can copy and paste and print that off and have that on your job for your Monday morning meeting, or however often you give safety meetings. And just make sure that you document it. Make sure you have a sign-in sheet and attach a copy of what you talked about to that sign-in sheet, because that satisfies the OSHA standard for regular and continuous training. And if you don't want to go that far, if you've got a TV in your training room, if you're having safety meetings in that environment, you can create a sign-in sheet and reference the video and let the guys watch the videos. And I keep them all between 5 and 7 minutes, which is kind of a standard. Just give them a 5-minute safety talk, or you can watch videos and learn how I present and give you some encouragement. But anyway, that's why I do it. I want to make sure that everybody has a resource so that they can share it with their guys and make sure that they're have a safe work environment. Plus, document and show OSHA that you are doing regular safety training. Anywho, that's all the advertisement I've got for today. It's a resource for you, and I encourage you to use it. And if you have a favorite safety video, I'm interested. Show it to me. Tell me about it. Give me a link to it, or recommend it in the chat or anything, because I'm always looking to improve my craft as well. And we talked about it briefly, but make inspections the very first task of the day. Start your day the right way before work begins. After you finish your PTP meeting, and believe me, I will follow you around. If you're operating a piece of equipment, I will follow you around and wait to get a copy of that inspection form. And that creates a mentality to know he's going to come get it. I better go ahead and do it. I can't. And if I see you walking across the lot and you're wearing a harness, I'm going to stop you and do my own inspection, make sure you're wearing it right. It creates that mindset when somebody's doing oversight on that kind of thing. So that is, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm doing, boys and girls. That's 200. Put this to 250. I think I got a little bit of delay, and I'm trying to decrease it. Anyway, so especially fall protection, I'll inspect the harness, and then I'll check your lanyard. I'll snatch that thing and make sure that SLR, that self-locking retrieve lanyard, is going to lock up. And then, I walk the job site, and I am checking to make sure that you're anchored properly. I've seen guys anchored to conduit. I've seen guys anchored to guardrail systems, and I'll say, what's the standard on that guardrail system? 200 pounds down and out. And I said, yeah. I said, what's the standard on anchorages? And they'll go palms up. And I said, well, that's where we need to start our training. And I say, think about it. 5,000 pounds, and that's engineered. That's what OSHA recommends. Why do you reckon they recommend it? Because they've done the studies. They know if you're going to fall, and your lanyard and your harness is required to hold 3,500 pounds, and the anchorage is required to be 5,000 pounds. You reckon they done the math? And they, yeah, I reckon. I say, so if it can't hold up your pickup truck, then it can't hold you up if you were to have a fall. So make sure you verify your anchor. And then the next is look at your surroundings. If you were to have a fall and you were tied off, Do you have a swing? Are you going to swing into a structure if you fall and bash your brains out against the side of a building or a piece of iron? Are you keeping your anchorage as much overhead as possible? Are you checking all your surroundings? What are some hazards while you're dangling or working that could interrupt it? Or uh, is your anchor correct? Looking for check all your surroundings. So make your inspections your first task and not your last thought. Because when the problems are found early, they don't become incidents later. All right. Man, anybody out? Hello? Anybody out there this morning? Anyway, I could use a joke or something. Somebody send me a question or a comment. At least give me something to talk about as we go through this. Tell me some of the weirdest things you've seen guys tying off to. That'd be kind of funny. I seen a guy tied off to a HVAC system one time. I'm not talking about one of them big ones. I'm talking about a split system on a rooftop. Hey, how about falling through a skylight? Anybody ever seen that one before? Or a picture of anybody falling through a skylight? I've had a few of them throughout the time here. Had a dude one time, not I, but I've seen a picture where a guy, he'd been up there working all day and he was tired, and he saw that place he could sit down and got out his Newports or whatever they were, and he was going to have one, and he sat down on a skylight and went straight through it. And the only thing you knew that he was there was a pack of cigarettes and the lighter laying there on the ground where he dropped them as he was going down. Skylights are bad. That's one thing we hadn't talked about is I guess we need to talk about it. Warning lines on a rooftop. And there's always confusion about that. And they say, well, it's 6 feet back from the edge. And I said, well, if you're working on a roof, it's got to be 15 feet back from the edge unless you've got a monitor. And they go, and you get it to talking about them, why it's required that way. And now roofers have some special considerations. I think they can get even closer than 15 feet. If you know about roofing and you're a roofer out there, let me know what your safety standards are as far as warning lines and watch safety watches and all that stuff goes. I'm not had much experience in roofing. I just tell them stay 15 feet back from the edge unless you're tied off. I've had plenty of jobs where we were moving roofing, and I would allow, the 15 foot from each side, and they could start at one end being tied off behind them with the warning line and work their way back. And move the warning line, keeping it 15 feet from the leading edge. It's a pain in the butt, but that's what you got to do. I know you want to make production. I know that, man. We got to make production. We got to do it quick. But all that production don't mean a daggum thing if somebody falls and gets hurt, or you have a fatality due to a fall because you didn't have proper warning lines established. So, excuse me. Anyway, send me a chat and let me know what you've experienced out there. I'm really interested in hearing. It's the job you learn. If you're not old professor told me one time, he says, if you're not green and growing, you're ripe and rotten. The job teaches you every day if you're willing to learn. The best workers, they never stop learning. The safest worker never assume they know enough. And if you're not out there and you're not learning a new what the hazards around you are, um, you know, when I first got in the safety business, I had a checklist, and I think it was like 3 pages, and it was real small print, and it made me go through and check all this stuff. And for years, I used that safety list, and before you know it, it had programmed me to know what to look for. Well, it's the same thing with anybody. You've got to go through there and imagine what the hazards are, look at what the hazards are, and key on it. And you've got to learn to be aware of all those hazards and how to protect yourself from those hazards. That's just part of the job. And, old workers, they've seen a lot, done a lot. And, you know, if, if there's ever anybody older than me on a job, I will listen to them. I will seek out their advice. That's getting harder and harder to do these days. Somebody being older than me that I can learn from. Y'all, excuse me, I need to clear my sinuses. Man, whew. These early mornings and waking up, and especially in the springtime, boy, sinuses. And the older you get too, boy, I tell you what. Anyway, best workers never stop learning, and the safest workers never assume they know enough. And, as I walk through life, I'm always looking at the hazards somebody could have. The grandkids are playing near a edge of a bank or something, and I'm like, hey, stay away from that bank. That's just what happens as you progress along. And then, so safety's not just for the job, it's from when you're working at home. If you're doing some roof work, replacing gutters, cleaning gutters and all that, you know what it takes to be safe doing that kind of work now, because you've learned it on your job. And if you got your 15-year-old son out there helping you, hell, he's bumbling around. Just you get to train him on safety. So take it for what it's worth and learn something new every day and share it with any of those who don't recognize it. Man, a lot of these young guys don't even recognize they're in danger. They're so full of piss and vinegar, I'll call it, that they can't see that they're faced with a hazard. So if you're an older guy in your 40s or whatever, take these 25-year-old guys under your wing and talk them through what's going on and how to keep themselves safe, and look out for them. Because I promise you, if you look out for them, they'll be looking out for you. And that's what we need a lot more of. Everybody looking out for each other. And now, I don't mean to throw shade on anybody, but I have noticed that my immigrant workers are a lot more safety conscious. I don't know if it's because they need a job worse or what the deal is, but they seem to be a lot more conscientious about what's going on, and I'm proud of them to see them, and they're more, and I understand there's some cultural differences out there. Where in some cultures that you just do what the boss says, you don't disagree with him. And that's one of the hardest things I've had to work to overcome, that, hey, it is okay to disagree with me. It is okay to say, but wait a minute. That has been one of the biggest challenges over my entire career. Tell me. Say, hey, yeah, I'll do that. I'm ready to do that. But what about this? And I'll go, whoa, I didn't think about that. Good call. And I've been I'm a safety guy, but I've also been in various management roles in the demolition business, from operations manager to general manager, hiring and firing guys, trucking, transportation. Don't have much experience in the estimating, but I can tell you how long it takes, and I get called upon to answer those questions from time to time. But you don't know everything, and your guys need to recognize that you don't know everything. You may know the biggest objectives, but you may not know all the hazards that they face. The guys on the front line are the ones who recognize the hazards, and you need to rely on them if you want to have, no job is successful if you have any kind of incident. I don't care if it's a cut finger. You have not had a successful project if there's been one incident that has injured someone. You have failed. And that's what your mindset needs to be. Anyway, we are moving along because we're rapidly running out of time. All right, we've talked a little bit about fall restraint and versus fall positioning systems, and that's next on this week. I just scripted the video yesterday. I'll be recording and editing sometime this week. So make sure you take the time to go over there and check it out. And you'll find it right there, Toolbox Safety Topic Videos at youtube.com at Middleclassbubba 5876. And this week on the channel, we'll be breaking down the difference between fall arrest systems, preventing access, and positioning systems, supporting work. And we'll cover things like proper setup, common misunderstandings, which I see constantly in the field when it comes to those two, a positioning system versus a fall restraint system. So we'll talk about proper setup, common misunderstandings, and real world applications. Knowing the difference could be what's keeping you from stepping too far. There's a multitude of applications, but I'll cover the highlights, make a good toolbox safety topic meeting, especially if you got people doing debris removal at elevated surfaces and having to use trash chutes or openings and things like that. We have created openings in roof and floors and stuff like that to get demolition debris out of the building, and those require some special use scenarios of not positioning but fall restraint. But anyway, changing out that dip. Now I need some water. All right. Let me get some water. Y'all send me a chat. We're running low on show. I'm about talked out and give out. Trying to flush out cortisols and get the old trying to it's tough being a fat boy. I guess there's two kinds of people. Those are trying to gain weight and those trying to lose weight, and I'm the one trying to lose weight. All right. Well, I guess it's time for us to start winding this show down. I hope you've learned something this morning. I hope I've entertained. I wish I were more entertaining. I could be more entertaining if I receive chats. Somebody says, "Man, you a funny looking dude." I can respond. I know I'm funny looking. I know I sound funny, but that's all right. I want to hear from you anyway. I've had guys say, "You don't know what you're talking about." Guy got an eye patch on and half his teeth missing, got knocked out by rigging, and crippled arm and a crippled leg, hobbling around. You ask him what happened, he tells you all these accidents he's had. One old boy had collected workman's comp, and the company kept him on after he got healed up. And I was walking a job and a couple hazards, and man, he got mad. He wanted to fight me one time. I said, you got a crippled up arm and a crippled up leg where you was not paying attention. You fell off, and you won't take any kind of suggestions from a guy that prevents that kind of thing. You go, I said, whatever, man. He wanted to fight me. So as we wrap this morning up, remember, no compromise, no shortcuts, no guessing. If you don't know, ask somebody who does. I promise you, I've never known anybody who didn't want to tell you everything they did, or as Mark Twain once said, didn't know. So know your system, respect your hazard, protect yourself and your crew, because someone's counting on you to make it home. Keep it safe, timely, and efficient. And remember, as always, have a grateful day. And I'm going to close this one out with a little tune that I created, kind of put things together, gave it a basic tune and gave it the words, and created this little tune. It's called Serendipity Point. So we're going to close out with that. Until next time, have a grateful day, and we'll see you next time.
Up on Serendipity, Point on Leafwood Hill, just west of the top of Hogback Mountain. That's where we live, love, and play, watching the clouds roll slow all day. Cold in the winter, frost on the ground, firewood crackling, that familiar sound. Mild in the spring and summer breeze, dogwoods bloom through the Georgia trees. Beautiful in the fall, oh, the colors run deep, golden hills and the valleys asleep. Every season's got a story to tell, life up here fits us well. Serendipity Point, where the good Lord shines, finding treasures you never set out to find. In the flora and fauna, in the morning light, finding joy in all things, making others' lives bright, making others' lives bright. wrapped in corn.